Tasha K did what no one expected and leaked the raw audio footage from that now famous scene between Ciara and Mendeecees. What's in that clip is even remotely real. The story we thought we knew has completely changed, and the internet is on fire, and love and hip-hop fans are in complete disbelief. Rumors about what actually transpired on set, including the shouting, the walkout, and the allegation that Mendeecees made Ciara feel unsafe, have been circulating for days. But now, it's chaos now, because fans are reportedly shocked to hear Ciara backstage, smiling, joking, and even implying that she was going to shake the table on video in this leaked clip. Mendeecees and Yandy. It's people who claim they're tired of remaining silent while a false narrative goes out of control are at the center of it all. Some claim she set it up, while others question whether VH1 knew it was fake all along. K didn't just leak the video, she also provided commentary, timestamps, and names. What's worse, when Tasha K uploaded that new video to her channel, nobody knew what was going to happen. She didn't even title it with her typical all-caps energy. Just a simple, quiet warning. You're gonna want to hear this. The thumbnail wasn't spectacular either. The reaction is already dividing the cast, the fans, and the franchise itself. This may be the biggest scandal Love and Hip Hop has seen in years. Tasha began the video slowly, sipping from her wine glass as if she wasn't about to turn hip hop and love upside down. It was just her sitting in her studio, one eyebrow raised as if she already knew the storm she was about to cause. But the moment you clicked play, it was over. She had recordings, receipts, and no plans to hold back. Now listen, unless you guys pull me into the mess, I usually stay in my lane, she added, but when I saw this film, I exclaimed, no way. Not him, not like this, not again. Fans were glued to their screens as Tasha played a segment of what she claimed was raw, unedited audio from the Love and Hip Hop set. In the clip, you could hear Ciara backstage, talking to someone, possibly a stylist or an assistant, and laughing softly. Her voice was calm, almost playful, as she said, "Watch how I flip this scene." She paused for dramatic effect before leaning into the microphone and saying, "So let's get into it." Fans quickly began saying that it sounded calculated, and that it demonstrated that she entered the situation with Mendeecees, knowing exactly what she intended to do, which apparently was chaos. I'm about to make this moment mine. Now, I don't know about y'all, but that don't sound like no woman who is scared. That sounds like someone who wants a headline. And the worst part? The producers let it happen, Tasha remarked, pausing the video and staring straight into the camera. At home, Mendeecees and Yandy watched the Tasha K video together in silence while the living room was dark and the blinds were barely open. Meanwhile, fans were already rushing with the leak on social media, with screen captures going viral on all platforms and captions like "caught in 4,000 inches, and so she really lied, huh?" Once again, Mendeecees found himself at the center of a storm he didn't start. Mendeecees leaned back into the couch and stared at the ceiling, saying, "This is what I was afraid of. Even with proof, people still going to spin it." Their phones buzzed continuously, but neither of them answered. When the audio began to play and they heard Ciara's voice, Yandi pressed pause and sat motionless. "She really said that?" she whispered. "Ah!" As if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Mendeecees wasn't so confident because the damage had already been done, but Yandi stated that not all of them were finally beginning to understand. Fans began tagging VH1 in thousands of comments, demanding a response, and some even wanted a formal apology. However, even if Tasha revealed the truth and people began to switch sides, the original moment that claimed that he made her feel unsafe was already branded into the show and into his name. The network didn't react at first, but producers were undoubtedly keeping an eye on things. Behind the scenes, a confidential conference was conducted with executive staff. Some wanted Ciara fired, while others wanted the entire program removed from the schedule. The episode was still in final edits, but the leaked clip had cast doubt on everything. They were concerned about whether airing the scene at all would result in legal blowback rather than just damage control. They weren't worried about Mendeecees suing, but rather about public opinion turning against them. If it looks like we let a false narrative air, we're done. One executive said, "What if we cut it?" Sierra remained silent while they talked in boardrooms. Too late, it's already out. The world saw it through Tasha K first. Someone else asked? There were no live videos or posts, but quiet didn't stop the storm, and people began to dig. Fans retrieved previous interviews in which Sierra had referred to Mendeecees as aggressive. A few cast members liked suspicious tweets and won makeup. Artists even wrote, "That's why I keep my camera rolling on set." People be acting. They started to wonder if she had been fabricating this plot for months, and as it all unfolded online. Mendeecees received a call. The show's producer, with whom he had collaborated for years and whom he had previously trusted, stated, "We're trying to fix this." "We didn't know it would blow up like this," Mendeecees retorted. "You allowed it to happen. You rolled the cameras and saw her say it? We assumed it would remain between you two, just for the scene." Mendeecees stated, "This is my real life, my real name, and my real family. This isn't a storyline." Mendeecees had already hung up when the producer apologized once more. Looking at him from the other side of the room, Yandi asked, "Are you okay?" He nodded, but it wasn't sincere. "I just want to know when telling the truth stopped being enough." Tasha K posted another video later that day, this time with more clips and comments. She also included a second clip of Sierra saying, "I'm not afraid of that man, but I know how to make it look that way. This isn't how we do it. This is why no one believes real victims anymore." "You're playing a dangerous game," Tasha remarked, shaking her head. Her response was instantaneous. The response was much more intense this time. Celebrities began to remark. Other influencers joined in, and even normally impartial blogs reposted the video. The pressure was on, and the producers were suddenly the focus of the discussion rather than just Mendeecees and Sierra. "I didn't want to talk about this until I had the facts. But now that we've heard the footage, now that the truth is out, I just want to say, as a wife, as a mother, as a woman, I'm hurt." Yandi went live for the first time since the leak, discussing the network and whether reality TV had finally gone too far. Her eyes were heavy, but her voice was calm, angry that my husband's identity was briefly brought up in the public eye, hurt that our coworkers failed to shield him, and hurt that anybody would use fear as a plot device. Supporting comments poured in, and fans shed tears. In the midst of all that love, a new question began to emerge. If Sierra truly planned this moment, who assisted her in doing so? The atmosphere surrounding the entire scandal changed just hours after Yandy's live broadcast. Previously, there had been confusion. Some people sobbed in the replies. Others apologized for ever doubting Mendeecees, with the leaked clips out and Tasha K dropping bombs left and right. There was a sense of collective outrage building, and not just at Sierra. Everyone's eyes were now on the people behind the camera, the ones who knew what was really happening and let it play out anyway. Word got out that a second producer had quietly resigned, though not formally. Insiders whispered that this person had warned others weeks ago that Sierra was doing too much and that her storyline was being pushed beyond its bounds. But no one listened. In a group chat amongst cast members, screenshots were flying. They simply stopped attending meetings, turned off their work phone, and vanished from the chaos. In her most recent post, Tasha K said, "This isn't just about Sierra. This is about a system that lets black men be torn down for clicks." People were sharing the full transcript of her second video, particularly the part where she implied that someone in production encouraged Sierra to speak out during that scene with Mendeecees. She didn't name names, but she left enough clues, so the puzzle wasn't difficult for those who had been there that day. Those remarks struck close to home, especially for Mendeecees, who wasn't a man who broke easily. Mendeecees is not perfect, but you don't get to play with someone's image like that on national television and then call it entertainment. You don't get to damage someone's reputation and then walk away like it's just part of the show. Not in public or even in private, but when he was sitting by himself in the kitchen that evening, reading through the comments. Something about seeing so many strangers stand up for him, some of whom had questioned him just days before, cracked him. He read aloud one message: "I owe you an apology. I believed the worst without hearing your side. Sierra was dealing with a different kind of reaction. Her silence had begun to work against her. At first, people had given her space, assuming she was reflecting, but now they were calling it calculated. "I'm sorry." He sat there for a moment, head bowed, breathing slowly, allowing the weight of everything to settle on his shoulders. Manipulative. In private, Sierra was angry not at herself, but at whoever leaked the video, but she wasn't providing the answers that people sought. She blamed the network for not protecting her the way they protected Mendeecees. She believed she had just voiced her emotions in that scene. Perhaps she had been dramatic or said some inappropriate things off camera, but she didn't see it as a lie. Rather, she saw it as her truth, wrapped in entertainment, and that had always been sufficient for her. But now that she was losing control of the story, one of her best friends, a person from Glam, tried to warn her, saying, "Girl, people are turning on you. You might need to say something." "Say what?" "That I didn't mean it. That it wasn't real." Because it was. Sierra said, "Maybe it wasn't how they heard it, but it was real to me." The friend said, "They don't care about that, right? Now, they care about how it looks. And right now, it looks like you lied." She didn't answer, and by the next morning, Sierra's brand deals had begun to back out, although nothing official had been said. The message was clear. One beauty sponsor paused her promotional campaign, and a boutique with which she had partnered archived their collaboration posts because they were watching the backlash and didn't want the smoke. On the other hand, Yandi's fanbase was expanding, and she had more supporters than ever before. One remark even stated, "We watched Yandi protect Mendeecees when no one else did." This is what real love looks like. It wasn't just sympathy, it was admiration, and Yandi sensed the change. People were describing her as strong and graceful. She and the Mendeecees still had to decide what to do next, though, because admiration couldn't reverse the damage that had already been done. The network contacted them again, but this time it wasn't simply a producer, it was someone further up, and they requested a meeting either in person or virtually. Mendeecees agreed, but with one restriction: "I want to say my piece, unedited, on camera." They wanted to discuss how to move forward and what might be done to put things right. "You mean like a confessional?" "No cuts, no prompts, just me talking." The executive paused. "I mean a statement, my truth, and if you guys want me back, that's the only way it's happening," he replied. They agreed, and the following day they filmed it. It was simple, with only one camera, a plain background, with Mendeecees sitting motionless and staring straight ahead. His speech was not theatrical. "I've made mistakes in my life. Everyone knows that. I've paid for them. I've done my time. I've worked to be better," he said, sounding like someone speaking the truth. "And I returned to this show with the hope that perhaps, just possibly, I could show people the man I've become, not the man I was before." However, what transpired over the last few weeks broke something inside of me, because it made me realize how simple it is for someone to cast a shadow over your name and get away with it, and how difficult it is to erase it, even when it's a lie. At the conclusion, his voice faltered for a little moment before he stopped, glanced down, and nodded. They then turned off the camera, and the uncut video was forwarded to legal for examination. People were comparing Sierra's scene to other moments from other shows, saying it felt too familiar, too convenient, too produced, and somewhere in Atlanta. Another cast member was silently watching it all unfold. While they were debating how to use it, the fans had already made up their minds. Clips from Tasha K's leaks were now included in fan-made montages, and the hashtags were growing, with hashtag Justice for Mendeecees trending. It was Mena. She had been silent since the scandal began, had not liked anything, and had not posted, but she had been observing. And what she was going to do would make everything worse. Erica Mena was a storm in heels, constantly watching, constantly waiting, and in times like this, when the internet was on fire and the cast was falling apart, she knew exactly when to jump in, not to help, not to fix. If you knew her, you would know that her silence for weeks was unusual. But it was calculated rather than fear-based. But when she finally spoke, it wasn't a live session or even a direct video. Instead, it was a single post with a black screen and white writing that said, "Saw this play out before. Just different names." There were no names, hashtags, or tags. However, everyone understood what she was talking about. Fans crowded the comments section, with some urging her to elaborate and others encouraging her. Her post quickly gained popularity and was quickly picked up by bloggers. Erica had previously experienced tension with Mendeecees and Yandy, back when things on set had almost turned physical, although she had moved on in public. She was still carrying emotional scars behind the scenes. So when Sierra's accusations made headlines, Erica didn't leap to her defense. They didn't need confirmation. The connection was clear. Now that we see this footage and know Sierra lied, you want to act like you knew something? Girl, stop. Tasha K responded almost immediately, saying in her next upload, "I see Erica trying to join the choir, but where was all that energy when you had your own issues? You ain't speak then." Fans were divided once more. Some believed Erica had the right to speak, while others believed she was chasing false leads. However, one thing was certain. Her tweet sparked a renewed interest in the topic. And Mendeecees noticed it as well, but did not respond, didn't like it, and didn't say anything. But as soon as he read those lines, he understood that another wave was approaching, and this time it was messier. Yandi, however, was incensed. The producer attempted to reassure her, saying, "We haven't approved anything yet. She just posted." She called the network right away, demanding to know if Erica had been granted permission to film again, if they were planning to create a new storyline, and whether Erica and Sierra had joined forces against her husband. That's all. "But you're considering it," Yandi yelled. "Don't tell me lies," the producer said, pausing. Across town, Sierra was witnessing the same turmoil, and Erica's tweet gave her a boost of confidence. "It's a big moment. We'd be stupid not to consider it," said Yandi, who hung up without saying goodbye. They weren't really friends, but they formed a new alliance after she sent her a brief private message that said, "Thank you," Kara responded. "How are you, sis?" But in reality TV, alignment was more important than authenticity, and Sierra needed someone to support her at the moment, especially since Tasha K was still breathing down her neck. However, Tasha wasn't finished yet, because in her subsequent episode, Stray played another voice clip, this time from a phone call rather than the set. A producer allegedly acknowledged that Sierra was just trying to boost her visibility that season in a conversation that was allegedly recorded by a member of the makeup team. The voice on the tape said, "She knows how to create moments." I mean, it's not like he actually did anything, but the way she sold it. Genius. Tasha paused the clip and looked directly into the camera. "Really? Are you calling it genius to allow a black man's image to be tarnished in this way? Are you calling it genius to see Wendy lose it live while attempting to defend her husband? I find it disgusting." Fans were demanding an official statement. Publicists were rushing, emails were leaking. And the network remained silent despite the fact that that episode became her most watched video of the year. Instead, they subtly pushed back the release date of the next episode, citing technical delays. Nobody believed it. Mendeecees, for his part, only wanted accountability, someone to tell him, "You didn't deserve this," someone to acknowledge that it was wrong. He wasn't seeking for retribution or airtime. Yandi, however, was done waiting and scheduled her own interview, not with Tasha or the network, but with a national publication that covered entertainment news from a journalistic perspective, with Someone to apologize, not privately, but publicly, just as the harm had been done in that interview. She stated, "My husband's name was dragged through the dirt over a scene that was built on lies. I watched people twist his past into something it wasn't. And the saddest part? It wasn't messy, it wasn't reality TV, it was clean, neutral, and it gave me the space to speak clearly." The video of her speaking those things made news because people didn't even wait to hear the whole story. They assumed and went with it. Now, even after the truth is out, there is no apology. In her subsequent scene with producers, Ciara finally broke down after seeing the interview. Although she remained silent, she was boiling inside and felt cornered and betrayed by the same system that she had believed was protecting her. She also felt as though the moment she had attempted to create was now being used against her. The producer moved forward as she added, "You all allowed this to happen. You told me to be honest and to speak my truth, and now I'm receiving death." Threatsy stared at her for a long time. "No one told you to lie?" "I didn't lie," she said. I didn't think it would turn into this." And at last stated, "But it did." Later that evening, Erica went live, and for the first time since it all began, thousands of people joined right once. She began softly. "I really wasn't going to say nothing, but I've been watching this whole thing unfold. And it's triggering for many of us, not just for me. We've all seen what happens when a storyline ruins someone's reputation. And I'm not saying Ciara lied. People were pleading with her to clarify, but she simply sipped her drink and ended the live stream. I'm just saying. Sometimes people say things on camera that they wouldn't say in real life. They want me to film again, they gotta air the whole truth, the clips, the call, everything, or I walk," he told Yandi after Mendeecees had made up his mind by the next morning in the editing room. 3 producers sat in front of glowing monitors, replaying every second of the raw footage, not the chopped-up preview clips, not the confessionals, just the original scene as it unfolded in real time, without music, Yandi agreed. With everything going south, the network now had to decide whether to preserve the image they had created or revealed a truth they had helped bury. They observed the Mendeecees' body language, confused, motionless, then slowly unraveling. They watched Ciara enter with that odd calm. They watched her wait until the cameras were rolling before speaking, and they repeatedly rewinded one particular scene. There was no sound design, just voices, glances, tension, and choices. With that deliberate pause, the second Ciara replied, "You made me feel like you could." One producer pulled back and observed, "This doesn't feel honest." They didn't mean the feelings. Emotions are elusive and subjective. However, what they saw didn't align with the story that had already gone viral, so they had to decide whether to air it anyway and capitalize on the views, or to back off and risk losing the season's most explosive plotline. In the meantime, Ciara had become quiet in public, but was struggling in private. What she had hoped would be a moment of empowerment quickly turned into something she wasn't ready for. People were making timelines, portraying her as manipulative, and claiming that this wasn't the first time she had twisted a moment for attention. Her team attempted to prevent this by reaching out to a mid-tier blogger to arrange a clarity interview. But it didn't work out. The backlash was increasing more quickly than the support, and fan pages that had previously encouraged her were now blocking comments. Why didn't you speak up right away if you felt unsafe? Why bring it up on camera without warning? And do you regret how you phrased it? Were some of the most pointed queries. The comments beneath the video told the story. Ciara remained calm, but her remarks felt forced, and viewers could sense the unease. In this new digital era, authenticity was crucial. It was not a choice. "This isn't sitting right. Where's the apology?" She deflecting. Mendeecees' podcast appearance, on the other hand, had begun to gain significant traction, not because he cried or became angry, but because he didn't. He spoke as though he had nothing to prove but still wanted the record clarified. And that tone and control were changing public perception. Inside the network's headquarters, damage control meetings had escalated into full-fledged crisis management. They were now talking about brand risk rather than just the show. The executives wanted a solution before sponsors started dropping out. So they came up with the idea of mediation. There was no scripts, no legal risk, and reputational damage. The audience fell silent as Ciara and Mendeecees spoke one-on-one without any edits. "She never agreed to that," he said, "and he probably shouldn't." By day's end, it already contacted a reputable mental health advocate who had previously worked on reunion specials, someone impartial saying, unless we bring in a third party. The concept was straightforward. If both sides agreed, they would record an uncut, private discussion facilitated by this third party. No producers, no pressure. Just the truth, and then show that truth to the audience. Mendeecees didn't trust them after they sat back as his name was dragged, so he didn't answer the phone straight immediately. However, after hours of silence, he called back later that night and said, "I'll do it." Ciara agreed the following morning, not because she wanted to make things right, but because she could feel the walls closing in. "But I'm not going to act. I'm not going to perform. If she lies again, I'm walking out." They met in a little studio on the outskirts of Atlanta with simple lighting and seats. Her reputation was rapidly deteriorating. This might be her only option to turn the narrative around. It began slowly, with 2 water bottles, no crowd, no hoopla, and a mediator sitting between them who was serious and soft-spoken. Mendeecees waited, arms crossed, jaw tight, and then he spoke. Ciara talked about her past, about times when males had made her feel tiny and scared, and about how, sometimes, when voices rise and space closes in, old dread comes back in unexpectedly. Finally, he looked her in the eye and said, "You said that I made you feel unsafe, and I respect your feelings." He also talked about his children, what it was like to come home from prison and try to start over, and how he had to prove himself in every room he entered. Ciara blinked briefly. She didn't answer immediately. "Did I lean in? But you knew what? That would sound like when you said it on camera. You knew what you were doing?" "Yes." "Was I angry?" "Definitely. But you stated it in a way that gave the impression that I had done something far worse. And I never threatened you." She appeared to pause for the first time since it all began, saying, "I didn't think it would go this far, but it did. And she didn't want to damage your reputation." The mediator softly leaned in and said, "But would either of you be open to acknowledging the other's pain without dismissing your own?" It wasn't forgiveness or resolution, but for some reason, both of them softened in that moment. Ciara nodded first, followed by Mendeecees. However, it was a step. Later, the entire video would be shown without any editing or dramatic music, just genuine talk. The fans responded with a range of emotions, including pity, rage, and, most surprisingly, introspection. I feel bad for both of them. This was heavy. This is what reality TV should be. Mendeecees didn't celebrate or post a victory message. Instead, he went silent once more and spent more time with his children. The network released the video with a straightforward caption, "When the cameras stop, the truth begins." Ciara remained low as well, but others who knew her observed that something had shifted in her tone, timing, and awareness of how brittle power is in this field. And even though the program eventually returned, things were never quite the same. Fans were more critical, producers were more circumspect, and cast members were more reserved. But one thing became evident to all. This was more than just a plot. This served as a warning, a reminder, that words have power. And when the incorrect ones are stated in front of the wrong camera on the wrong day, everything may go apart. You already know. This wasn't just another hip-hop and love scandal. If you've read this far, there was more to this, something more sloppy, for fans, producers, and the entire ensemble. What began as a tense moment on set turned into a full-blown public disaster. Trust was betrayed. Charges were made, and although there was never the expected apology, the aftermath made it impossible to act. As though it was all for television, it's your chance to comment now. Do you believe Ciara's remarks went too far? Did Mendeecees react appropriately, or did he succumb to the pressure? And what, if anything, ought the producers to have done differently? Was it ever appropriate for this footage to air? Or did the network go too far in order to boost views? Leave a comment with your opinions. We read everything, and we promise that your voice counts. Go ahead and hit the like button. Subscribe to receive the most recent information on your favorite cast members, and turn on the bell so you don't miss a second of the drama if you're as invested in this as we are. Because with hip-hop and love, what occurs on set doesn't stay there.